Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and our Nuxt series. I am Aditya, co-founder of Garchi. In the last video, we saw about fetching the API and created a weather app. In this video, which is going to be the final video, we are going to see two main concepts, emitting the event and store. So let's first see events or emitting an event. So as you know, like in Vue, there are some predefined events, which is something like this @click. There is also like for key press as well, and there are like several custom predefined events. But what if I want to pass a custom event, and what is the use of that custom event? So let's take an example here. So we have our index page, and on that index page we have a component day data, which is this one. So what if we want to pass data from the parent, which is index, to the child? We use props in that case. So we have a day data and we pass it from the props. But what if we want the data to be passed from child to the parent? So in that case, we will use custom events. And how it works is whenever an event is emitted from a child, in this case, our day data, we listen to it on the parent, which is the index. So we will listen for that event here. You can also pass events between one component to other, but it might get difficult. So in that case, we use store. So let's first see the events and then we will see the store in detail. So how does event work? So suppose, let's take an example. Here I have a button which converts the temperature to Fahrenheit. And now I want to tell the parent that the temperature is currently being shown in Fahrenheit for this index number, which is this index number, like the first or the second card or the third card, something like that. So I just want to show it somewhere over here, or maybe like an alert, or maybe somewhere just I want to show it here. So how will I do it? I will go to the day data, and here I will write after props or before props, just make sure it's under the export default, we will write emit. So emit is nothing but an array, and it asks or it takes the name of our all custom events. So in this case, I will make a custom event, something like button click, something like that, button clicked. And now what we will do is whenever this button is clicked, we will just pass that event to the parent. But how can we get the index number? Well, in that case, what we can do, we can pass the index number here as a prop, or we can just actually we'll pass it in the prop. That would be more easy. So we'll say index equal to index, and this index we will define in the props like this, index. And now we will take another const, which would be, so I'll just remove this code first, and here we will take const index equal to ref props dot index. Okay, so we have our index. Now what we need to do, we just need to pass this index to the parent, even though we have the index here, but we just want to tell the parent that that index card. So if I go here and I say this first, second, third, whatever it is, that card was clicked for the Fahrenheit. So we just need to tell that parent. Of course, you can pass any data, but just for demonstration, maybe this is not been my right example, but just for demonstration, we are just showing how, or just seeing that how we can pass it from the child to the parent. So let's go here and in the day data. Now let's go to our button action. So we need to take it as a function so that we can add the event on that button click. So what we will do, we'll push. So we'll say show Fahrenheit temperature, something like this, and we will need to create this function. So we'll go here, pass this, or let's first paste the line that we have, this one. Just take the name of the event. This is just, I'm just creating a function, and let's take that function here like this function, and let's take this thing here as we are in the setup function now, so we need to say here value, and this will become value. Now here we need to pass the event. So how we will pass the event? We need to, in our setup function, we need to pass with props or the second parameter as emit. Make sure that this emits and this emit, they are written as it is. So this is like the view property and it's accessible through this word emit. So if I hover over it, it will show you what exactly it does. So let's see how to pass event now. Here we will say emit. What is the name of our event? Button clicked. And what we will say, the button was clicked for this one. So I will say index dot value, and we can also we will just show this one. Now let's go to our index, and now we want to listen to this event. So here I will just say @button click, and then just carry some functions. I will say assign message. You can name any function here, but it should be a function name. So if you see that we have @click, which is the predefined event, and we have the @button click, which is our own custom event. Now let's go to our setup function here, and let's write this function. So we'll say function, and now, okay, let me first put the braces. Now, if you see, with our event here in the day data, we are passing a value. So we will pass that value over here, or we will catch that by passing an argument in this function. We will say index. You can put any word here, but just to avoid confusion, I will write passing here is index. So we are catching that index. But of course, you can put ind, anything you like. So let's now maybe let's first alert this and let's see what we are getting. Index plus, so we are concatenating it, card was clicked. Okay, so now let's go here, let's take this, get data, and now if I click this one, so nothing happens. So let's see what we are doing wrong. So we have prevented, I just didn't returned it, so I just need to return it like this. If I go again, London, and so it said 0 card was clicked because index starts from 0. If I go here, 1 card was clicked. So what we could do is we can say +1 like this, and we need to do this as string. So now let's go here again, let's do this. 1 card was clicked, 2 card was clicked, 3 card was clicked. So what we are doing is we are passing the data from the child to parent. So this is how you can use events. Another example would be, suppose if you have, say, the list of products in your e-commerce store, and you are rendering each product as a separate card like this. So how we have a day data for each day's data kind of thing. In the same way, you can have a product card, and if you want to pass to your parent to show which product was added to cart or which product was viewed or something like that, you can use event in that case. So you can pass the event from your child like this. So passing the emit keyword over there. So, and it's nothing but a function. So that function's first argument, it's the name of the event, and the next argument is the value. Of course, you can have multiple values and you can just keep on adding values like this with comma separated. You can also have just the event name, like passing the value is optional. Okay, so that was all about event. Now let's see what about the store. So for the store, let's see the concept of store first. So if you go to Nuxt documentation, you will see their store directory. If you're new to Vue, in Vue, there is something known as Vuex. So what it does is it creates a single source of truth or state, or something like a single source of data which is not permanent. It's just like a state. So if you refresh the browser, it goes off. It's only there as you navigate through the router or Vue links or our Nuxt link. So it's a state, and what it does is it is used to share data between all your components. So if I go here in my components list, so I have here three components: data, header, and logo. Now suppose if data wants to communicate to the header, it is very cumbersome. How we can deal with it? We can create something known as store. So what that store will do, it will create a single source of data which can be, or state, which can be accessible for data, header, logo, everyone. It doesn't matter, but as long as they are component, they can use it. Not just component, but the pages as well. So it's accessible to anyone which has a name ending with .vue. So now let's see how to create a state. So if you go in the store folder directory of your project, there you need to create a single file known as index.js. So what is this? What this is now you can have multiple JS file in one store, or you can have one index.js file and you can have multiple stores set up in one file. We will first see how to set up an index.js and then we will separate it. So let's go to Vue documentation back again. And here, if you see, setting up a store is slightly different with setting up a store with Vue. How? So in Vue, we have something known as Vuex.store, and it's automatically, and we need to write this manually. But for Nuxt, we just have to write these things. Like we will see in a moment what is a state, mutations, getters, and other thing action. But we just have to write it, export it, and Nuxt creates this setup behind the scene for us. So now let's just take this thing and let's copy it, let's paste it and change it according to us. So now let me remove this first. Let me remove this as well, and let me write here same thing for actions, getters, and modules. Okay, let's first see what is a state. So as I said, these states are nothing but the key value pairs, where key represents the name of our state or the data, and value represents the value of that key state or data. So we will use the same example of weather and try to get this weather API through our store, or we will use this which one here, index this item or all this thing, and we'll pass it. Like we'll get the we'll use this API, so we'll pass this to our store and then get it from the store and use it here rather than calling in the component, because when we call this in the index.vue, it is only accessible by index.vue and to the child components where we pass their single items or the complete items, list of items. So we will go here and create something known as weather data, and initially it's gonna be a empty array. Okay, now let's see what are mutations. But before that, let's see what are getters. So getters are nothing but functions which returns the state. Okay, so we will here say get weather. It would be a function like this, and this will return, and it takes the first argument as state, and we want to return state dot weather data. Okay, so this will return our weather data. Now how this works is getters returns the state, mutations assign value to the states, and actions are used to like operate or some computations for the state. Okay, so let's take an example. Let's have a mutation. So set weather data, and this will take a state and the value. So what value we want to set? So we will say weather. We can give any value, it doesn't matter. So Now here we will go and say state dot weather data equal to weather. So this will set the value to our weather data. Now next is the actions. So actions. So what we will do is we will call our API in the actions, and that actions will put the data in set weather data, and then through getters we can get the state. So why we are doing all this in such a complex way? Actually, it looks complex, but it is required, because when you use these rules, or you can say like kind of like a steps, so mutations for setting the data, actions for processing it, getters for getting the data, and etc etc. This makes sure that your states are consistent. Okay, so let's use the action. So we will say fetch weather data, and here it will be a function, so it can be written like that, but we'll write like this. And what it will does it will take a word known as commit. So what this commit does I will show you in a moment. So first let's go to our index page. Let's copy this as it is, and let's put it here, and let's import Axios here. So we will import Axios from Axios, and now let's okay, we'll keep this like as it is. So we will need the location value to be passed, so we will pass it in our value like this, location, and we will remove the value from here. Anywhere else? Yeah, that's it. So now we can get the data, and here instead of saying receive data dot value, what we are going to do is we are going to say commit, and what's our state, sorry, name of our setup mutation, set weather data. So set weather data, and what does it take? This value as it is. So this will commit our or mute or use call our mutation. So commit takes the first name, is the name of the mutation, and the value. So in this case, weather. If you see, we are not passing state, so we don't need to pass state here as a variable, because the store knows that it has to ignore this part and focus more on this when there is a second argument over here. So this all refers, like the commit function takes care for us. Error, we can either console it or we can either alert it, so it doesn't matter. So we'll just console it for now. And now let's so we have the mutations, we did it. Okay, that's correct. Now let's go in our index.vue, and now let's see how to use store. So if I go to composition API of Nuxt, there is the same way how you use store in the composition API of Vue 3. So let's see how to do it. We'll just copy this use store, and we will import it from Nuxt composition API. Once we have that, we will take a variable here, const store equal to, you can use any variable, but I'm just taking it store so that it refers to our this store, and we will say use store. Okay, now let's go back one more time to see what does this use store does for us. So if you see, it returns this $store. So if you are from Vue 2 or you're using options API, then this $store is used to get store data using options API. Okay, so now once we have that, next thing we need to do is in our this thing, we need to say now store dot dispatch. So dispatch is used for calling the action. So here, in the index.js, we use commit for mutations, we use dispatch for actions. And how we call it? We call the name of the action. So name of the action like this. And if we want to pass any data, so we'll say location dot value. You can see all this in the Vuex documentation here. And if you just go through the documentation, or even if you go to actions, and in the actions here, you see it passes like this. So this is how it works, our demo. And here, so we have this. Now what we will do is we will say receive data dot value will be our store dot getters dot, what is our getter's name? So if I go to index.js, it is get weather. So I'll say get weather. Okay. Now if you see, this is gonna be an async request. So because Axios is asynchronous, so it might be the case that when we call getters, this request is not completed yet. So we need to await for this. So how we are going to do this? We are going to say this to be async like this, and here, oh sorry, we will say await. And then we don't need this const response equal to this, and we will say commit. Once this thing is done, we will just copy it here, and we will say response dot data dot our response. So that's it. Now let's try this out and let's see if we are getting the same. Let's see what is happening here. So if I click on get data, here we have the data here. So now let's go to Paris and let's click get data. You could see it, the time was a bit changed. I'm not sure if you see the difference in weather. Okay, let's see the Cairo, and you see that values are different. Okay, let's go back to London. So you see we have the different temperature. So this is how it works. So we can use store to get the data in any component like this. Okay, so once we have this, now okay, we don't need Axios because we are not using Axios here. So once we have this, so what's the use of this now? So we just saw the use of it, that we can use this in index.vue. Also we can use this in daydata.vue if we want. We can also use this in header.vue. All we need is just import useStore, define store, and then just use these 2-3 lines depending on what we want. So in case we want to have dispatch, like we want to carry an action, we will use the dispatch method. You can also do the same thing for store.commit, and you just need to have the value, so whatever the mutation name is, and we have to just follow the same way here that we did for here, that we did for assigning the weather data. So we can just copy this as it is like this, and we can put it like this if we want to do any mutations value. Okay, sorry, so this will go something like commit like this. This is how you commit. So let's do a quick revision. So here we have store. So each store will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. So one will be the state, which represents the key value pair of what is the data and the value of that state or data. Next, we have the mutations, which is used, which are nothing but the set of functions, and those set of functions are responsible for assigning value to our state. Actions are used to operate on our state or do certain operations, more like a computed properties, to get the data. Getters are nothing but the way to get the data of our state. Now, as you can see, with just one file and one state, our index.js has become a bit bulky. Like each state will have its own separations, mutations, actions, getters, and in case maybe modules. So actually not modules, modules is a different thing. So what we can do is we can create a folder known as modules, or we can copy this all in a separate file and import it over here as a modules. So how to do it? Let me show you the traditional Vue way first, and then we will see how to do it in Nuxt. So we will just copy this all here like this. We will create a like a directory here, new folder, say modules, And in this modules, we will have new file, maybe weather.js. So this will be responsible for all our weather data. Now what we will do is we will export, instead of exporting it like this, oh sorry, not like this, but like this, we just remove the export from here. Actually, I can just do like this with VS Code, and I can just export it as a default. It's export default. Now when we export this, what we need to do, we need to export the state, we need to export the getters, we need to export the mutations, and we need to export the actions. Why we are exporting all of this? Because we might want to use this in our index, but mostly currently, or rather currently, we are not going to use it. We are going to use it straight in our Vue file. Also, one more thing we need to do, we need to give here namespace as true. Now what is this namespace is doing is, this is saying that whenever you want to access these functions or these properties, all you need to do is make sure that you have /weather as like a prefix. I will show you how. And what's the use of this namespace? Suppose if fetch weather data is also there in index.js or in some other module. In that case, this fetch weather data would be called again and again. And it's kind of like multiple fetch weather data are called at one time. So to avoid that, we are having namespace so as that only when we say we want fetched weather data from weather.js, so it only calls that thing. Also here, now we need to import it. We will say import, and what we need to import? We need to import weather from modules / actually it will be like this, modules, and from there weather. And here we will say we have a module name as weather, and it's this, it belongs to this thing. Now how to use it in our index.vue? So here we say fetch weather data. As we are using namespace, we need to say weather / weather data. For getters, we need to use it a bit differently. We have to say weather / get weather, like this. And now when I save this, go back here, go to London or Paris. Okay, we are getting an error. So let's see what's the error. So it says weather fetch weather is unknown type. So let's see what's the problem. So if I go back here in the weather.js, so we have namespace to be true. Okay, that's correct. Weather. Okay, so okay, let's go here and see store.dispatch weather fetch weather data location.value. Okay, let's refresh the page. Okay, so now we are getting it. So we just need to refresh it, and now everything is good. So this is the traditional Vue way, or Vue 3 way, or Vue 2 way. Like we just have it in a modules, in a separate file, like modules like this, and then we import that module like this, and we pass it as each modules like this. In Nuxt, it becomes a bit simple. So what we do is, instead of creating as a modules directory, we will just bring this file outside like this. We'll say move out. Okay, so we have this weather.js, it's here, and we don't need this as well over here. We can just remove this. We'll just save it like this. Also, this is not required. So our index.js becomes like this. Our weather.js is here. We can remove the modules folder. And now what will Nuxt do is, it will treat weather.js as a separate module. Let's see how. So if I go here and get data, so we have the data from the London straight away like this. So instead of importing it in the index.js and then doing it all other stuffs, we can straight away have the weather.js file in Nuxt, only in Nuxt, and we can then use it as a separate module. So now if you see, now if I want to create another state, maybe say if I want to create state for other type of data. Maybe if I have an authenticated user, I want to create states for that. I can just create authenticated or authentication.js over here as a store, and I will have that authentication.js same like state, mutations, actions, getters, and I will just export it, and I will just use it in the index.js, same like how I'm using it here. So instead of weather, I would be having the name of my store file, and that's it. So that's why we use like mostly modules, or sorry, not modules, but the separate files for store. So this is all about events and stores. If you and all about our Nuxt course as well. So if you find this course helpful, please subscribe to my channel, and also don't forget to hit the like button. And also, if you have any questions regarding this or any video of this series, or if you find anything confusing, feel free to comment in the comment section, and I'll make sure to reply to it. So see you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.